Hey, welcome to the Gig Life podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. I hope you're doing all good. My guest today is Tully Ryan. Tully is a drummer from Sydney. He plays in Godtet. He plays in Hekka. He plays with Ngaiirie. That's just to name a few. Let's just rip straight in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 139. Tully Ryan, here we go. I think we're rolling. Tully Ryan, how you going, man?
I'm going good, Stevie. Thank you very much for coming here.
Awesome. So we're in Erskenville, Newtown. I was just saying when I got here, I haven't been out this way for a while, and lucky I don't drive a wide car, man, because it's the parking's.
Well, the best part is that when I late at night when I can't find a park, and I park on the corner and there's no stopping. And there's like people trying to get around the corner.
Yep.
And I put my hazards on, and they just it's too hard for them to get around, so they have to wait for me. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. But even like I've ended up getting a park around the corner, and I'm like looking at it, going, that's actually going to be quite hard to get out of.
Yeah.
You know, just in the straight line. There's no corner or anything.
Yeah.
So how long you been living out here?
I have been in this house since 2019. And the house that I'm in is actually the house that my father and my auntie grew up in.
Really?
So my grandmother and grandfather bought this house in the 50s. And Pop passed away years and years ago. Nan passed away a couple of years ago. But I got out of my joint I was just living on Alice Street, just down the road. And then I was looking for a place, and then Dad was doing renos here. He was like, "Hey, Nan's living here by herself. Do you want to just look after Nan and just pay board to me?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, awesome. That sounds good. Spend the last couple of years with Nan."
Yeah, that's cool.
Here, and then COVID happens.
Yeah, okay.
So it kind of worked out really well.
Right.
Like in terms of having a place and being like, living with Nan during COVID and all this stuff. And so yeah, it was like June 2019, I think, is when I moved in here.
And did she? Excuse me for asking, but did she pass away during COVID?
No, it was after.
It was
after.
Okay,
it was the back end of it. So
because that would have been
not
tough. That
not
so
COVID
tough.
related.
No. I'm not saying it's COVID related.
Yeah.
During the whole lockdown sort of time.
Yeah. So she was quite old.
Yep.
And it was just me and her. It was awesome. It was
Cool.
good.
Is she a muso?
No, she wasn't.
No.
Loved music though.
Yeah.
Quite often. I mean, I think especially when it was, that lockdown time, I'd be teaching online for most days upstairs, and then I kind of come down and cook dinner, and then just put. We didn't have the sound system at that point, but I just had like a Yui boom, cook dinner, and just play like hits from the 40s and 50s, like a lot of, and then Nan would be sitting here waiting for dinner and be like, love music, yeah.
Awesome.
Big Sinatra fan, massive Sinatra. And so was my grandfather as well.
Right, that's cool. Did you have the drum set up in the lounge here? Or?
Oh, no. They were definitely upstairs.
There's a couple of sets of drums here in this lounge.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, this is, because I used to have this kit, this like Sakai kit. There's a story behind buying this kit, because I remember when Andy Gander first came back to Sydney, and James Waples and Paul Derricott had their studio in, was it on Victoria Road? It was in Balmain or something, studio and permanent. And then Andy was doing lessons out of there. And Andy was telling me about Sakai, and he was like, "Oh, it's the old manufacturers of Yamaha. I think that's the thing, or whatever." And then, what was the percussion co-op on Enmore Road?
Drums and percussion.
Is that what it's called? Drummers drums percussion co-op.
Damo?
Yeah.
Damo?
Yeah, Damo.
Yeah, yep.
And they had this kit
Right.
in there. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have
I thought I'd seen it before.
Yeah, yeah.
Really? Because there's not too many of these around.
Because it was like, I mean, that would have been, I wasn't living here at that point, so it was like years and years ago.
Yep.
But that would have been sitting in the window. I was like, oh man, that looks cool. Because at that point, I was like, I've been playing big kind of drums, and I wanted like a beboppy sized kit, like bebop sizes. And this one's got the cradle, and it's a bit weird. It's a bit hard to play. But
in what way?
Well, I think it's
the
just
size of the bass drum?
the kick with the cradle is a bit hard if you don't have like, I don't know, it can just be a bit funny, a bit awkward.
Right.
But it sounds awesome.
Yep.
Like, and it's cool for a little practice kit. But this was definitely upstairs, and Nan would be like, "Are you practicing drums?" I was like, "Yeah, that's right." Yeah.
So what wood's that made out of?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I actually have no idea. Sounds good though.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean that's just like a cannon. I mean, I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, you remember seeing like Steve Jordan, how he used to have the two kits set up next to each other.
Yep.
And it was like, what he used to play Yammy, like
Yamaha,
Yammy with John Mayer. It was like that really long cannon kick drum. I was like, fuck, it looks like that. And it kind of sounds like it's real like doofy and cool, and like doom. But yeah, and it's a bit of a hybrid because I've got that Manu Katché piccolo and that pearl thing. But yeah,
I've got the set of the Ludwig Beats drums. Small, cheap things. Really cheap. Oh, gee, that kick drum's a cannon.
Yeah, I always wanted those too. I think that was like, I couldn't quite afford that, and this was like kind of discounted at that joint, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll go for that. But yeah, it served me well.
Yeah, very
I've never really used it on a gig. I just used it as a practice kit, which is cool.
That's cool. Have you always sort of lived in the West?
I have for the last, like 10 years. In this kind of, actually 8 years, I guess. Like Newtown for like the last 7 or 8. And I was in Redfern before that, and in Glebe for a tiny bit before that. And then like I grew up in Homebush.
Okay.
That's where my folks...
Born and raised in Homebush.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's my folks live there. And yeah, it's just close and local and good for everything, I think.
Yep.
And especially Urco now is like, you know...
What do you call it? Urco?
Urco, yeah.
That's, cool. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. And it's... I mean, I think this is the first time I've ever lived in a place that... I mean, obviously my nan and pop grew up in this... You know, raised my dad and my auntie in this place. But... everyone knew my nan and my pop as well. So it's like the first place I've lived in where it's like actually getting to know the neighbours.
Yeah, right.
Even when people move in, like people move in next door, it's just like, it's very like, you know, not just like next door and the next door, it's like across the street, and like I've got friends on the street, and it's cool.
It's community,
Yeah, it's community. It's like the first time ever I felt that. It's like, whoa, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Because I've just lived in share houses, and it's like, you know, we just hang out in the house, and it's like, cool.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then you do your thing. But
so you said Nan and Pop were, like, everybody knew them. What did they do? What was their jobs, and what were they in the community?
My pop was he worked at a factory, like, I think it was a carpenter. And he, so actually, that chair you're sitting on, actually,
he made
that chair, yeah. Oh, wow. And all the chairs in the kitchen, the kitchen, he made those as well.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure he made this too.
And he would have hand turned all the legs up in an old type lathe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. That's cool, man.
And my nan, I'm not really sure. Apart from, she used to work at the Bolo in Urco, back in the day.
Yep.
But yeah, everyone knows Helen and Bill.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, before we're going to roll it right back. Before we do that, what's a day in the life of Tully Ryan at the moment?
At the moment, it's pretty chill. I'm actually trying to play more drums as I've got a bit more time at home before I go away again. Because this year's been pretty consistently busy with going overseas and then coming back and then doing stuff in between and then going back and round. And then I'm also just trying to say yes to a bunch of stuff because I like to fill up my time with a bunch of different things, you know.
Yep.
Like regular things that I've done before and then things that pop up, I'm like, oh yeah, I reckon that'd be cool to do. Plus, it'd be nice to make a bit of money as well. And then, doing this kind of teaching thing, which is not really teaching, but it's like sitting in with student bands.
Yep.
And yeah, but I'm trying to at the moment now I've got a bit of time before I go away. I'm trying to get back into the practice routine, which I haven't done in a while.
Okay.
And I think that's it's a hard zone to get into when you get back from a bunch of touring and stuff and all you want to do is sit on the couch.
Yeah.
I sat on the couch and watched that David Beckham doco yesterday.
Did you? It's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. And I was like, man, I want to play drums as good as Beckham can kick the round ball.
Yeah.
That's
cool. That's a good drive. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, well, it's funny too because it's you think that's quote unquote a waste of time. But then you see it, it's like, oh fuck, it's actually kind of inspiring. It's just it's funny how sport and art kind of coexist in a funny way. Regardless of how cheesy some of the bits in the doco are or whatever, I think it's all the principles are there, and it's just the drive and the motivation for that shit is it's real.
Yeah.
Even when he's I think it's when he goes to LA and the LA Galaxy thing, and then he's just he's just who are these guys?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, and then he's just like, oh, no, it's
and
actually...
he's still striving to be great, and then he goes away, doesn't he? He goes away. Where did he go? To Inter?
Milan.
Inter Milan, yeah.
Yeah, and then...
Yeah, and then
he comes back, and it's he was there for 6 months, and then he's just and then he starts to kind of develop a relationship within the, even though they're not at his level or not familiar, like Man U or whatever... I think that's really beautiful and cool and that thing. And I was like, fuck, why am I so into this Beckham doco? But it was I was born in 91 and I remember actually I was talking to Brendan Clark, who played bass last night with us, me and Dave, and he was just filling in for Yanni. But it was he was like, man, I fucking remember when Beckham shaved his head and everyone wanted to shave their head at school. I was like, man, I think I did that because it's just the influence of that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it was parallel, that his stardom was parallel to my life.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't actively aware of it, I think it was just what the hell?
I think there's millions of people with
absolutely. I was just I'm pretty sure I had a Man U polo when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I played soccer when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I think I think my favorite bits about the doco were the bits of Eric Cantona. He's just such a badass.
Have you seen that Man United doco when it was obviously been written by Cantona, because he's got this whole theatrical thing. He's doing his bit on a stage, telling a story, real close-ups of him, and he's got that that sort of snarl, and it's check it out. So I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, man. Okay, I have to see it.
But he's a character, Al Cantona.
Oh man, he's a straight up killer. Like I think I was talking to Dave, who was doing the gig with last night, and his guilty pleasure is 80s, 90s soccer. That's his shit. And he was just we were just talking about Cantona and just how profound he is, but just so he just doesn't give a fuck. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I was just looking at his Wikipedia. I was like, man, this motherfucker's been in so many films. Check his filmography. It's been in all these films since 95 or something. I was like, oh, that's mad.
Yeah. And they ask him in this documentary, do you have any, because there's that infamous flying kick.
Oh, the flying kick. Yeah.
And they said to him, do you have any regrets about that? And he goes, yep.
Yeah.
That he didn't kick him harder.
Yeah. Because, there's that clip of that that fly kick in the crowd. And then there's a bit after where he's he does the press conference and it's he says something about the seagulls and it's what the fuck are you on about? I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Switched it off.
Yeah.
All right, man, let's roll it right back and try and find out where this whole music sort of thing kicked off for you and, sort of then wind it back up. Yeah. So you said your Nan and Pop weren't musical, but what about your mum and dad?
Mum, not musical at all. Neither is dad, but dad's a massive music lover. Loves music to bits and has every record. He still goes to gigs. Hipper gigs that I go to, hip to shit.
Really?
He's sent me this ticket for this South by thing on Saturday because him and Mum are going to Melbourne. And he was like, "Oh, do you want to go?" And he was like, "Oh, there's this Japanese punk band that I really wanted to see." I was like, "I've never heard of them." I think I've seen the name. I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool." He's super across everything.
Yep.
Big influence, massive record collection. It's just can play a bit of guitar, can sing. Apparently, never heard him.
Right.
But just big music lover, frother.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously music playing around the house all the time. So when was that time that you started really digging it, and what was it? Do you remember what the music was?
The more I think about it now, I think it was because my dad grew up here in Erskenville, and my mum's from Lismore, and all her family's up there. So every year we'd spend maybe about a month up at Christmas time driving up to Lismore. And back then the drive was fucking 13 hours or something, 14 because, me and I've got an older sister and, we were kids, so stop more.
Yeah.
It's not like it is now. You can piss it in 9, maybe 8.5. But I used to have outside of the Walkman that I'd have, Dad had always been playing music in the car. And I think those long trips really, I mean, the Walkman especially, I remember listening to a bunch of stuff, heaps of Beatles, heaps of Stones, heaps of Led Zeppelin, and then other kind of shit that I wasn't really hip to or didn't really understand up until later on in life. I was like, I don't really get it. And
what do you mean? Because it was progressive or fusion-y?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, to, shit I mean, I understood, I understood Dark Side of the Moon. I understood, Wish You Were Here. But shit Animals or Metal, those kind of Pink Floyd records, I didn't really fuck with until maybe I'm not even joking. Like 4 years ago, it's like I go back and listen. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, right. I get it.
Yeah.
I get the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, super extensive record collection. Always stuff. And he still sends me stuff to this day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is cool,
Yeah.
He was here yesterday and we were talking about this Zambian rock band called Witch. Which is sick. Really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So was it always drums?
Well, I started playing guitar before I played drums.
Okay.
And it was, so I was 14. 14? Yeah, 14 when I started playing guitar. I took lessons on Concord Road in Concord. And there was a music shop there. And I can't remember the name of my guitar teacher. But he was a really cool dude. And at that point, I was like really into like metal and hardcore and kind of grunge and all this shit. And I kind of took lessons with that dude for about, I can't even remember. And I was like, I think maybe Dad was like, there's a drum kit in the shed that was we inherited this drum kit from a family friend, Rod Gilchrist, who passed away, and my sister had picked up drums in high school, and kind of played for a bit. And I was like, oh yeah, true, maybe I'll give it a shot. And then it was like I was doing both guitar lessons and drum lessons at the same time. And my first drum teacher was Ross Ferraro in Concord at that music school. And I was like, oh, I think I like this heaps better.
Yeah.
There's something about about it being I don't know, maybe it was just how I was feeling at that point in time, and I was angsty, and I was like, fuck, just bash.
It's a little bit more primal, eh?
Yeah. Well, it's just it's primal, it's personal.
Yeah.
It feels good when you get it right. And I liked the ritual of going to the shed and doing that and practicing that, playing along to AC/DC records and Led Zeppelin and all this other shit and for hours, and then, up until the point where the neighbours started complaining.
Yep.
And then I had to get the rubber pads, and then they even started complaining then, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah. But that was my thing, because I didn't really go. I had friends like in high school, but didn't really go out that much. Like that was my shit. Like practicing drums, up until the point of like meeting my best friend in high school, Andrew Rickord, Red, who came over one day and was like, didn't know I played drums and heard me play drums. Like, oh, dude, do you want to be in this band that I'm doing at this thing called School of Rock in St. Peter's? And I was like, oh, yeah, totally. That sounds cool. Anyway, joined a band and then started doing covers and stuff and that. And yeah, it was mad. So good.
What kind of music was that covers band?
At that point, it was like, so it was me on drums and Red on vocals, and he actually played sax for one song. I can't fucking remember what it was. And then Marley Proud was playing bass, and I haven't seen Marley in a long time. And my other really good mate, who I'm still friends with now, Johnny in Glezos, was playing guitar, and we were doing like, I think we did like TVI, like Radio Birdman, Basket Case by Green Day, into Jaded by Green Day, into Smells Like Teen Spirit, into something else.
Was this a medley?
Well, no, it was just
that was the set list.
Yeah, the Green Day, the two Green Day tunes were,
yeah, okay.
But that was kind of like, I think it was 4 songs. I can't remember what else. I do remember doing TVI and Teen Spirit, and I'd spray. Well, it wasn't even spray paint. I don't even was. It was like temporary hair when I had hair, which was a long time ago. And it's like temporary hairspray, and I painted it blue or whatever, spray paint, whatever. And it was at the Annandale, and Bonnie Kay ran it, and Carlos Aduru was a mentor there. Tim Koenig was a mentor there. Pat Torres, Imran Shahid, Ash Rothschild. Who else? Andy Clockwise. Yeah, so that was like when I was 14, 15. And they so it was semester run, and they just had a bunch of band, like put kids into bands. Sometimes like kids from high school would sign up together, or you just get put in a pool, and it's just like, all right, you go with you. So it's much like at JMC, where it's like, you play drums, you play bass, blah, 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 and then figure it out. But yeah, it was cool. And that was the start of me playing in bands. And it was mad. And yeah, that was when the Annandale was the Annandale, sticky floors and fucking gnarly.
I played on that stage a few times.
It was awesome.
It was the best. Yep.
So good. Yeah, I really, it's a shame what happened to the venue, but
yeah, it is.
It was cool to be able to do that at that, so young. And those School of Rock gigs went off too. It was like all the kids, like, because the kids from, I went to Homebush Boys, and so did Red, and Johnny was from Revesby, and Marley was like from Glebe, and there was like Black Wattle kids and Balmain kids and all these, it was a cool thing. It's just, yeah.
And it was all good, friendly vibes? No,
yeah.
Never
no,
drama
no.
said, that's good, eh?
No, it was bad.
Yeah. Especially when you got so many coming from different areas.
Yeah, and it was like, there were, all the other bands too kind of had their own thing, so it wasn't like, some of them wrote originals, which we ended up doing at some point. We were called, I think we were called Distorted Silence. At the first, that was the name of the band, an awful band name, but that was the name of the band. I can't remember what it was called at the first gig. It might have been that, I'm not sure. There's probably a poster floating around somewhere in MySpace.
MySpace, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Who were the drummers that you were? Obviously you've said Bonham. Oh, you were going. You were playing Zeppelin. You were playing Beatles.
Yeah.
Were those the guys that you were sort of solely focusing on, or was it a case of? Because I know for me early on it was like I was listening to, players like Weckel and Collier and stuff. I could never ever play that stuff at that stage. So I had my my sort of level that I thought drummers. So who were yours?
Well, I think like the main dude for me was Lucius Borich. Like that was like I wanted to be him.
Yeah, okay.
When I was like 15 and I heard Cog and I'd seen them, I was like, I want to be that guy. Like I want to be that guy.
Have you met him? Have you told him that?
Yeah. Well, I when he had that studio in Botany.
Yep.
And he was here doing a bunch of lessons. I had maybe about 3 lessons with him.
Cool.
I don't know if I told him that. I probably fucking wouldn't tell him that. But like that was like like New Normal and those Just Visiting EPs. Like that was my shit. Like. And he was an amalgamation of so many different drummers that I also really loved. But I think having Lucius be be from fucking Bondi and like have, that facility as well as like just be a gnarly, like really left field band.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever heard a band that sounds like Cog did, And like that, I still put that record every now and then. And it was like, and I still remember everything about that record. Like, I used to play that note for note, like, on like, not the drum kit that he had because I didn't have a fucking DW, but it was like I just like get all the bits and pieces, like a fucking tiny little rototom in the shed, and put it, like, hang it on something and be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a, you know, Audi Lucius kit.
Yeah.
And I used to play that record back to front. And it's funny how much I remember it now. Like, remember of that, the drumming of that. I was like, oh man, like I'd practice this so much.
Yep.
Not even practice it, but like loved it.
Yep.
Same with like Carnival as well. Like Sound Awake, that record. Like I practiced, not practiced again. I just played the shit out of it. I listened to it and I played along to it.
Yep.
And just figured stuff out. And I was like, oh man, like, I mean, Steve Judd, I love Steve. He's such a dude. And we've connected a little bit. Like, I met him once or twice, and every now and then we chat, and it's like, man, 15-year-old me would just be fucking flipping out. I was like, man, the dude's so heavy and like such a big inspiration for me, and I love his playing. And, you know, same as when I met Lucius, like, whoa. But that, yeah, I think the Lucius thing was a really big one for me, because it was like taking all these bits and pieces, and it's just like, I know Lucius is a massive Zappa fan, and I know he loves Bonham and loves all this shit, and, you know, from Cog coming from Hanging Tree, where it was like very metal centric, to being this refined kind of prog band where it's like its own sound, and it's like really intricate, and it's like King Crimson-y or something, but it's like if King Crimson was from Bondi. And it's like, you know, I really fuck with that, and I still do. And I'm just like really into the whole way that music was put together, and the way that the role that Lucius played in that. Much like Stuart Copeland played in The Police, who also Lucius, I know, is a big fucking Copeland fan. Mm. Much like Bonham, it has his own voice. Much like Ringo has his own voice. Like all these like big players in all these bands, you know, it's a big thing, and I think I've carried that on. You know, for me, you know, even like when I was super into Tool. I remember asking, like, I think I asked Carlos Adjura, because I had lessons with him after Ross, after I stopped going to that school, and I was like, how do you write drum part? And this was like in the living room of my mum and dad's place on Pomeroy Street in North Stratford. I was like, how do you write parts for songs that sound good? And I can't remember his answer, but it was like pretty profound. I remember being in the shower or something later. I was like, fuck, that's a weird question. And I was just like, more I think of it, it's like, I don't know, I guess it's just like you just do the thing for as long as you do, and you just you listen. The more shit you listen to, the more you figure out stuff, and rhythmically it kind of all comes together. And yeah, I don't know.
Is that your approach now to parts, coming up with stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I listen to heaps of stuff now. Yeah. Probably heaps more eclectically and like just all over the shop than I did maybe say 2 years ago, because I've been obsessed with as you can see, I've been obsessed with buying records.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's just like I like listening to heaps of stuff. Mm. And it's like, I think the buying records for me has been a good way of trying to teach my brain to shut off and enjoy, but also
I was about to ask you,
absorb the information.
So what's your listening process? Do you put the record on to pick it apart, or are you just going to basically, like you said, lie on the couch, close your eyes and listen? Or is it a bit of both? Sometimes you can't help it, eh?
Yeah, it's because it's a bit of everything, because like sometimes I'll go digging for a record that's like, I want to try and find this fucking record, and sometimes I won't find it, and then sometimes I will be like, oh my god, what the fuck, you know. I bought this like Zam rock record by this band called Peace, called Black Power, and I found it in Wollongong of all places. It's like, what the fuck, man? Look at this. They had 3 copies. I was looking for this record for ages, and that was purely like a listening thing.
Yeah.
And because I've been like, well, every now and then I get asked by Milky, my mate Ian, who DJs and runs the Sundays at Hive Bar. He gets like 2 guest selectors every now and then to spin vinyl with him. And I did that last Sunday. And I was like, on Sunday morning, I was like picking out records. I was like, fuck, what's cool? So that's more like of like, what kind of works? Not like, it's like, what's the coolest shit that I really love? It's just like, because some of the coolest shit I really love is like, no one wants to fucking hear that. Like, as you can see, that Captain Beefheart record, like, there's no shit on that record that no one wants to hear any of that. It's like kind of almost unlistenable, but like hip.
Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, it's like, but I think the like I was saying, with the New Normal, that Cog record, Sound Awake Carnival, where I was like sitting in the shed, 15, 16, 17, whatever, playing through that whole thing without like skipping tracks.
Yep.
I think it's like forced listening to the record, which I really like to do now. And I like to, I love doing gigs, but I think I'd like to focus more on recording drums because it's fucking heaps harder.
Yeah.
But it's more rewarding because it's like you have a thing that's like, and I've been inspired by so many people and listening to records and being like, just listening for sounds and like space and things and all this sort of stuff. And it's it's been good. So I listen to records for a whole bunch of different reasons. Like I've bought so many Max Roach records, and I'd really love to sit down and just like transcribe. I'm bad at fucking writing notes or transcribing. There's so many just solos on every single one of these Max records. I'm like, that'd be sick to learn.
Yeah.
But it's just like, fuck, I just love listening to it.
Yeah, no, gotcha.
I don't really have the time to sit down and do that stuff. I'd love to.
Yeah.
But I just like it to exist and be a piece of art and be like, fuck, that's heavy.
So when did that sort of Max Roach type music, that sort of that kind of jazz, when did that sort of come into your
man? It didn't really fully come into my. It didn't come into my. It was kind of on the peripherals, I guess. Like, but I was kind of blindsided by. I love pretty much like I said, like I was like a rock dude. I fucking love rock and I love heavy metal and I love hardcore, and that was my shit up until like I kind of went to uni and I was like, oh, I actually think I just love the drums.
Yeah.
I love all this music. I love music and I love drums. But I was like, if I really want to make a run with this shit, it's just like, fuck, I need to learn some more stuff.
Yeah.
So I just listened to heaps of stuff. I mean, like I always did, but it's like the more I kind of listened to stuff and with an open mind, I was like, oh, okay, whoa, there's really lots of shit and everything, and yeah, it wasn't until I kind of went to uni. I studied at JMC right out of high school. I did it for 3 years, and my year was just so great. Like, we just had good people in it, and everyone was super keen.
Well, good players.
Yeah, good players
and good teachers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good teachers. It was just like super chill, super small, and everyone was like super love. It was a super tight knit group. By the end of first year, it got even smaller too, because like anything with higher education, people go like, "Fuck this!" What are we doing
can't
here?
do this.
Yeah. So that was a thing, and I was very lucky to go to JMC at that point in time and have that year. I still kind of play with and hang out with now, and still my very, very dear friends. And yeah, it's good.
So, talk to me a little bit about JMC. What kind of school is it? Is it a jazz based sort of?
No. So when
Okay.
it was so when I signed up for the Bachelor, it was a Bachelor of Popular Music and Performance, which, take that as whatever it is. I don't really know what that means. I haven't fucking used it since, obviously. So, but now it's something else. I can't remember. I don't even know what it is now.
Yep.
But it's they kind of run through different styles of music, and like it's a lot more songwriter focused now. So there's less players and there's more kind of songwriters, because everyone's got a laptop and fucking tools or Ableton or whatever, and they can just do their thing. So back when I was studying there, it was like there were more players, actually heaps of drummers in my year. Not many bass players. There were more keyboard players than bass players, which was funny. Bass players always seem to be the hardest to find at uni, at like a contemporary
Hopefully
course.
they weren't all put off by the left hand of the keyboard.
Yeah. Fully. So, I think it was like just by the end of, because I'm can't even remember. It was like I found out about JMC through my mate Johnny, who I was in my first band with, Distorted Silence, shout outs. And he was like, oh, I'm there. And he was a year above me. And he was like, it's cool. And they were doing kind of like it was like fucking 7 or 8 weeks, you do a performance night. So you do the thing, much like School of Rock, I guess. It'd be like themed, but it'd be like, okay, we're doing blues, or we're doing Stax, Motown, we're doing fucking Beatles, we're doing Bowie, we're doing whatever. And then at some point it would be like, okay, now write an original, as a band. And kind of did that stuff. And that was, I think, when that became more of a focus and people were like, oh, fuck, some of the shit that these students are putting out is actually kind of good. It's got legs. Like, why don't we make that a whole separate course? And then that kind of became the songwriting thing, Yeah.
That's cool. So, are you getting a lot of producer types going to JMC now?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a part of the course that's
Yeah. So
it's basically production.
yeah, basically. So I guess like, yeah, I don't know much about the songwriting course, but there's like the producer. It's somehow tied in with each other. So there'll be people making beats and stuff, and
Yeah, okay.
but there'll also be people like doing singer-songwriter stuff, and it's kind of a hodgepodge,
Yeah, okay.
and it's still.
I think that it sounds like that would appeal to so many people.
Oh man, yeah, it's
Instead of going the likes of the
it's-
con, where it's it's that con's got its thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think at JMC, much like AIM or any the other kind of places like that, have appealed to a mass.
Yep.
Kind of a really broad kind of net of people. We got people coming from the mountains. We got people coming from Wollongong, Central Coast, and that's kind of always been a thing. And still to now, got people coming from the area, like the West and all that and stuff. So it's like,
Well, tell us about the guy you were telling me about before from Brazil.
oh yeah,
That's
Pedro. Pedro. I can't remember where he's grown up in Brazil, but I think he must be 23 now. Anyway, when he came to JMC, he was already a pretty competent dude and like had some stuff, and I had a couple lessons with him, and I was like, oh man, like, okay, cool. And I showed him some stuff, and he's kind of into the same things that I'm into. He's like throwing like Richard Spaven out there. I'm like, I know about Richard Spaven. I'm like, okay, I know exactly like, And it's cool when they throw buzzwords out. It's like, I know exactly what you need, what you want to know, and what your kind of vibe is. And he'd never moved out of, he'd never been out of Brazil before. This is the first time he moved here cold from Brazil straight to like Maruba, I think. And then immediately, like within 2 weeks, he's just like found a teaching job. He's working another job. He's studying. I was like, fucking hell. It's like awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's still now, and this is like last year I met him. And he'd be trimester 4 now or something. I'm not sure. But he's a little badass, and he's just like shedding all the time. I see videos like late at night when I'm just like going to bed. It's just like, oh yeah, Pedro put up a story of him just like shedding some shit, and he sounds heaps better than he did like 2 days ago. I was like, oh, wow. That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought then. So is he gigging? Is he out playing in bands?
Yeah, he has been. He has been doing a bunch of things. I saw him the other day, and we haven't really seen each other in a while because I've been away. But I've been meaning to catch up with him and see how he's going. But he has been super proactive and playing with people. Because I just said to him, I was like, man, like all you need to do, like, you know, don't even worry about. Don't even need to study. You don't even need anywhere. Just get out there, play.
That's it.
You know, all you need is a space to play. James has got that. That's awesome. And just get out there and just keep playing, keep getting your ass kicked, and be like, "Fuck, this sucks." And then at one point you'll be like, "Oh, this is awesome."
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, "This sucks."
While we're on that, then the whole get out and play thing for younger musicians, what are the pathways like these days? Is there still places people can go, like these young kids can go to play?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's still the Monday Jam. That's always going to be a thing, you know. And there's still places that you can go and get up and play. I guess I don't really know. You know, there's always places to go and see people.
Yeah.
Like I still go see gigs. Like I'm going to go watch this jazz gig after this tonight down at the Botany View.
Yeah.
Because I just love seeing people play.
Yeah.
You know? That's like that's almost better to me. That's almost better than playing.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I just get to just like have a beer and just like sit down and be like, "Fuck, this is good." But yeah, in terms of like what the jam community used to be, it's everyone's older, everyone's busier, and doing a lot more shit, so they probably don't have much time to jam.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not 2008 at the Mac, you know, which was like the primordial hub of
I remember
everyone, you know.
Yeah.
And I came late to that party, you know, like when it was dying in the ass, like, you know, it was cool. Like Abe was still in town and you know, Anita, like Alpha Mama, and that was fucking awesome. Like I wish that existed now for people to be like, oh, music could be so sick, like live music, and the scene is so alive. Because I think that the misconception with the scene is like people that don't live in Sydney, they're like, oh, it's dead, man. It's just like, it's not. People have fucking worked so hard to get their asses kicked, like to doing heaps of shit to like stay afloat. But yeah, that's just not that hub anymore. And I don't know when there will be. You know, it's hard because no one lives in fucking Surrey Hills anymore. Everyone's like scattered. So it's not the same, but there are places to get up and play. It's just go there and meet people and be like, you know, I mean, if Pedro or any one of my students or people that I hung out with, I came to a gig, I'm like, man, you want to play? Like, it's like, that'd be cool, you know. I think that's a thing. You kind of have to be a little bit more proactive with getting out there, which is harder to do. But yeah.
When you're at when you were studying, obviously you were saying before that, you're still good friends with a lot of people in that year. From that, during that time, were you forming bands and going out and playing? Creating your own, setting your own gigs out? Or were you playing with other people? Or?
Yeah, it was definitely more covers and RSLs and weddings and stuff, It wasn't until like 23, 24, I started doing original stuff. I was like, oh, fuck, you can make money off this and you can tour. Like I did my first tour when I was 23, 24. I can't remember. I'm 32 now. But yeah. Yeah, it was like heaps of weddings, heaps of cover gigs. Like I was, this dude, Ray, who lived out in Blacktown, this Burmese guy, and Jess, who I went to uni with, were doing covers, like doing fucking, South Juniors.
Yep.
Yeah, in the main room.
Yep.
And I was playing electronic drum kit, doing Livin' La Vida Loca, and ABBA, and From This Moment, which I look back and I was like, fuck, that's so dorby. But I was like, it's sick though. I mean, I listened to those songs and I was like, man, those songs are so good, and I just was like, well, this is so lame.
Took it for granted. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about your foray into original music.
Yeah. Can I wee first?
Of course you can.
I'm going to wee.
You're all right, man. All good. Sweet as.
And we're back.
So when did you mentioned before about you discovered original music and that you can make money out of that. So tell us what that first sort of band was, and what I'm kind of getting to is, the bands you're playing with now, Godtet and Hekka, and that's sort of that's fantastic pinnacle sort of stuff from what I've been listening to. So
I'm very lucky to be able to. I was thinking about it last night too, because it was like, fuck. I mean, yeah, this is like with Dave from Godtet and Brendan Clark, amazing bass player, who I don't get to play with Brendan very often, and it was just this random gig at a brewery in Redfern. And it was just, at the best of times, Godtet or any Godtet adjacent Godriguez thing, just don't talk about what you're going to play.
Yeah,
it's
right.
the Make Stuff Up Club.
Yep.
Inventors Anonymous, as Brendan called it. So it's amazing to be able to do that. And not only me being able to do that for consistently the last 7 years with Godtet and other things, but be able to do that coherently with other people that have done that as well, I think is like, because I feel like I live on kind of two sides of the spectrum, musically, original music, the shit that's like very much down the line, and the shit that's very kind of open and very creative. And then sometimes I can meet in the middle with with an artist or a band leader.
So someone like Ngaiirie or something, or is that more towards the...
Yeah. With Ngaiirie, I think it's like she's able to, she puts a lot of trust in myself. Not just myself, but other people like Andrew Bruce, who's the MD with Ngaiirie and also plays in Godtet, to be able to kind of bring your own thing and not just be, I mean, you are a hired gun, but it's not just like, play this part, do this thing. It's like, oh, you got a little bit of wiggle room with, like, if you're hearing something, it's just like, oh, I think it'd be cool to do this, and I think that's awesome. But I think doing heaps of cover gigs and wedding gigs early on a lot of them when I was like, I quit my fucking cinema job when I was studying at uni because I was like, oh, I've got all these gigs. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? Sitting in projection. The best part of sitting in projection was like I get to control the CDs, just play whatever music I like, and their management would be like, yeah, what's this music? I was like, oh, well, that's a weird Peter Gabriel track that I thought was really cool. And and then starting to do original stuff and record with my friends at uni, Jess Dunbar and Matt Price. They both had original things, and we went to uni together. And Jess and Matt are together, and we're at that point too. So worked on her EP and then worked on Matt's EP. And then I was like, fuck, this recording thing's really hard. And I was like, I kind of want to do more of it. It's just like...
What do you mean hard?
It's a different part of the brain, everything's under the microscope. And it's like, you really need to fucking get the things right. And it's like...
Do you remember what you were thinking going into it the first time? Like that first recording? Did you think, did you think you know what you were doing? Until you hear your drums in the playback and you go, oh. Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I haven't listened to it at one of those EPs in a while. I should probably do that as a thing. But I remember, like, even before that, my dad's really good mate, Steph Miller, before I was in uni, I was like 16, I was playing with him doing original stuff. And it was kind of like folk rocky stuff. And I played on his album before I went to JMC. So that was the first thing I kind of played on. And I listened to that recently because Dad gave me the CD. It was just like, oh, I found a copy. And I was like, fuck, I can't put it in my car because the last CD I put in my car was a Hendrix CD and it wouldn't spit it out for like 6 months. And I was like, I don't want that to happen to this one. And it was like the BBC Sessions, like Hendrix CD. I was like, fuck, they got a really good version of Foxy Lady on there. I was like, oh man, I really want to hear that again. But I listened to that when my CD player worked in my car again and wouldn't suck up all my shit. And I was like, oh, it's actually not as bad as I thought because it was such a fucking long time ago. And it's like so much has happened between then. It's just like, of course you'd go back and be like, oh, I wish I did this differently. It's like, oh man, it's like fucking 18 years ago. It's pretty wild. But it's a wild thing, recording. I think it's just like, you could always wish you'd do things better.
Yeah.
There's things that I wish I did better on the last bunch of records, But it's just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just have it exist, and if the people dig it, then fuck it, who cares?
That's it. So, like I told you, like I messaged you the other day, I've been really going deep into the Godtet catalogue, and from that first record to Strings, which was the latest one, which was the live recording, right? Mm-hmm. And that was at Vivid 2022.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Vivid cross something.
Yep.
Yeah, that was probably the best gigs I've done in my life.
Yep. Okay.
I remember, so it was split up into two sets. There was like the string set, which was the first set, and we did a Wednesday and a Thursday, I think. The strings set, which is the first set, and then we did a set with Julian Belbashir, Musa, Marlin, and Imad, who they kind of did like traditional African, their own thing.
Yeah, I saw some short videos of that stuff.
And we kind of played behind them. And I remember it was like the first night, it was like after one of the tunes, like me and Yanni, the bass player, kind of looked at each other, and Yanni just mouths, "This is the best gig I've done in my life." I was like, me too, man. I was like, well, it's really heavy, and like Dave put a lot of fucking effort into that, like, and it was super sick. It was great. It was amazing, and everyone put so much effort into it. It was awesome.
So that's sort of the earlier sort of, well, I mean, most of the albums, I suppose, like you said, it's that what did you call it? The something anonymous club?
Inventors
Anonymous.
Yeah,
Club?
coined by Brendan
Yeah.
Clark. I like that. Inventors Anonymous.
But obviously the strings thing, there's obviously written string parts. There has to be.
Yeah, so
I guess my question is, what's it like sort of playing that music within that construct though? Like,
yeah,
when you would have, because the last time I saw you play was at the Inner West Drum Fest.
yeah,
No, not the last one, the one before.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, with Dave and Yarn.
Dave and Young. And I was sitting off, looking at the stage off to the left, and it started with Dave just went down and he turned some envelope filter on,
just playing with Lego
just
down there.
playing with Lego down there, and it just, and that was it. It was off.
Yeah.
And
It's a bit like, it's pretty much grip and rip, like, for the most part. Even last night, playing with Brendan. Brendan's never improvised with me and Dave in that context before, and it was like, Brendan's a motherfucker, so he knows what he's doing, and he's a great improviser too. So it was like cool. It was so different to like Yanni, obviously, or like anyone, But again, like, I've got so much improvisational confidence from Godtet because, like, one, we've made a bunch of records where it's just like we'll go in and we'll jam like 45-minute increments over 2 days, and there's like 12 hours of shit, and at least more than half of it's fucking garbage. Like, so what you're hearing the best bits of like 2 days of shit,
Yeah.
And it's just like it's pretty much like everyone. It's like it's a listening exercise. Like, and I mean that from the first Godtet record, that was like our kind of angsty. It's fucking loud. It's super noisy. Like,
and busy. Yeah.
super busy. And it's just like now, as time has gone on, I think all of us are just like, no, we like the space, and we like kind of just playing really subtly, and and I think like for me, when I listen to, again, when I was talking about listening to records, I'm like listening to like that latest Blake Mills record, Jelly Road, which Abe played on.
Yep.
And it's just
and
like
Pino, right? Pino played.
Yeah,
bass,
Pino played on it, and it's like, apart from that, like, Abe has been such a big inspiration for me for such a long time, and continues to be. Like, continually just fucking blows my mind. And it's like, it's awesome, his musicality and the shit, the weight of knowledge that he has, and to be able to just play something so subtle and make a record out of it. Even that, the confidence to make mistakes, that drum album that
thing
he
did. Yep.
He did.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
And that kind of thing, it just really inspires me now. It's just like, and it has for ages. It's like, that's why it's like the two sides of things. I think it's like, I really love playing like dumb, Beatlesy, like, not dumb, but like just kind of boom splatty stuff, and but knowing I can do more, but not being able to do that, and the restraint of that as creatively, I think, is like a really cool thing. But yeah, the whole process of like improvising with Godtet, or even with like Adam Ventura and Pliner at a Lazy Bones late set, it's like, it's the knowing that you can go somewhere, but then like not, but just kind of holding on to it until a certain point, because it's like, it can so fucking easily go there and just stay there, and then you can just like be like, fuck it, I'm tired. And it's just, it's cool, like, and I wish more people had projects that they were able to do that stuff, because there's so much to be said for not talking about music and just doing it.
Just doing it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's pretty amazing. It's like I think now, well, I haven't had students in a while, but the last couple of students I've had at JMC, and you know, that being said, they've kind of been really fresh, and some cannot really play. And I was like, oh god, okay. And I just say, look, just sit down and just play whatever. I'm like, I don't say play a beat. I just like just play, and that can be like so freeing as well, and like such a creative process. It's like it's a thing.
Just well, I'll go back to my original question in a minute, but you're just talking about that sort of the boom splashy type beat stuff, and then me, I've still got my head in the Godtet thing, and then you've also mentioned your days playing along to Led Zeppelin in the shed. There's one song I'd have to pull up my phone and have a look. I think it's the album with the whiter cover with is it the pink or the orange? Is it 2?
Is it
Number 2?
Or would it be 1?
It was 1. It is 1, and it's sort of spacey to start off, and then you come in with so Bonham, and the sounds Bonham, you know.
Is it 3? Is it that one?
Yeah, 3. Yeah, first track.
That's so funny you say Bonham. I think when
it sounds.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it does sound like Bonham, and I was like, you know, I think at that point I was really getting into like DJ Shadow and like that kind of shit. So
Right.
And I think, I mean, there's a lot of. It's quite different now. I mean, yeah, the Godtet 3. That's like quite different to how we improvise now. Because Dave's on a whole other trip, and like he's you know spent time in Africa and Morocco and doing that whole thing. So it's kind of less like beatsy now,
yeah,
and kind of more like textural.
Gotcha.
You know, I think it was like we always joke about the Godtet when we kind of play that loud, backbeaty, obnoxious shit. We're just like, oh, that's the lazy bone sound, because we did this residency where it was like, that's kind of all we did. Yeah. We did the month, and it was like, oh, that's the Godtet lazy bone set, where it's just like, oh, backbeat. And then, and now we're just like, we're in our textural sensitive stage.
Yeah.
You know?
So going back to my earlier, where I was going to with the strings performance, obviously David written out the parts for the strings players.
No, that was Novak Manojlovic.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so from Hekka, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, those parts were written out. So when you did that performance, how was it struck? I mean, you say it's an improvised thing. How was that structured? Were those songs, did they have to be within a structure, or was it a case of, you know, giving the string sections a bit of a nod because it?
Yeah, so that was not the African set was probably more improvised than that, because it was like Novak had composed string parts for the quartet. Yeah, quartet. Was it? I can't remember now. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of sections, but it was like obviously Nov was like conducting the quartet as well as us. So, but we rehearsed twice, kind of the sections, but not like kind of come up with ideas.
Right.
It was more like, here's the fucking tempo, like come up with the groove.
Okay.
And luckily me and Yanni have played together long enough that we kind of know what we'll do. You know, we've kind of developed our own little language that
yep.
it's like we can interlock and figure it out. So there'll be like key moments where it'll be like, oh, you know, now the band drops out and Novak will be like, okay, shut the fuck up. Or like, it'll be like just drums and percussion or something, you know. So there was a bit of a roadmap.
Gotcha.
You know, but still all the bits in between the strings, like luckily with like, you know, if we kind of went in cold and did it, it would have been a fucking disaster. But the hearing the strings a couple of times before and the melodies is like, oh, I kind of get the mood, you know, like kind of figure it out. So yeah, and thankfully it worked both nights and it wasn't a complete disaster, which is really funny too, because like we recorded both sets both nights, and initially we were like, oh, because I can't remember which one's on record now. I think it must be the first night.
Strings.
Yeah, I think the second night we were all like, that's heaps better. But then we listened back, like, actually, the first night's kind of a bit more vibey.
Are you going to release the other set as well, or not sure?
Yeah, no, I don't think we will.
Okay,
I think
cool.
maybe at a later date. I don't know.
Yeah.
TBC. But yeah, it's a special one, and it's funny too because like everyone, that was at a particular point where everyone was like ready to see live music again, and it meant a lot to a lot of people. It meant a lot to us. Like that gig still does. I think it's really cool. And like that was a bit of a lightning in a bottle moment. Like if we tried to fucking do it again, it wouldn't be the same. You know, it just wouldn't. You know.
Yeah.
There was so much surrounding that, I think. Yeah.
That's cool. Now Hekka. So Hekka's, from my ears, that sounds like it's a little bit more formed, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the latest record, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very much structured, but when we do it live, it's a little bit looser. We're kind of like segue into tunes, and you know, because it was a long time ago that we recorded that record too.
Oh right,
that was like 20. 2020. It was the end of COVID, I think. 2021, maybe. But yeah, took a while for that record to come out. But it's yeah, and again, Novak Manojlovic, who composed the string arrangements for the Godtet plus strings record live set, he pretty much wrote all the music. Yeah,
the piano player, right? Yep.
Yep. And Jacques, who's my housemate,
Yep.
he wrote one tune on the record as well. But yeah, that's very much more song, but it's tunes. Yeah,
well, you can groove to them.
Yeah,
that's what I was listening to in the car.
Yeah.
Well, and that first song, there's that 2-bar, the drum fill break thing.
Oh yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's my fucking
That's your thing. That's your part.
Yeah,
of that song.
Yeah,
that record.
it's so funny too because there is that fucking one drum fill in that song, and every time I tried to do it live, I keep fucking it up. It's just like, oh man, because every time I did it in the take, I nailed it.
Yeah. And
I tried to do it live, and there's just something. I just keep fucking kooking it. But it's funny too because like now we're going back to talking about that time where I asked Carlos when I was 15, how do you fucking write drum parts and tunes? And I was like, I remembered specifically talking about Danny Carey drum parts for Tool. And now I'm like, man, am I just writing fucking Danny Carey drum parts in Hekka? I was like, Hekka's just become Tool. Because I like to make that. I like to make that kind of shit feel good, but also, you know, I was really getting into like Dan Weiss during lockdown. I don't know if he's New York,
Jazz.
Yeah.
Yep.
And his way of playing is like, very, there's some hectic shit that he does.
He has the snare sort of facing down. Yep.
And he very much like, I was signed up to his Patreon and I was checking heaps of shit out and I was like, fuck, there's so much independent stuff, and on that first track, I'm kind of doing like this really kind of, I can't even fucking remember if I can play. We don't really play that song live, so it's like I was doing something and I was like, it's almost like a Glenn Koch thing from Wilco as well, where it's like very much like kind of a lot of polyrhythms in it, and I was like, fuck, how did I come up with that? I was like, well, that's a cool part. I was like, good on me.
Good on me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in a few years, excuse me, in a few years you'll get some young up and comer. They'll be transcribing that.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you reckon?
I hope so. Yeah. And they'll be like, how did you? I was like, fuck, man, I haven't played this shit in ages. I can't even remember. How do you do that, Phil? I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
It's like,
so you also play with Ngaiirie.
yes.
Yep. So tell us how that sort of came about and where you're at with that.
Well, I've kind of been like Ngaiirie adjacent for a long time because my really good friend Andrew Bruce used to play with Ngaiirie for a long time, and Cut who now lives in Hobart, was singing with Ngaiirie. And then it was like I can't remember. I remember talking to Ngaiirie about this. I was like, when did I start playing in the band and when did I meet you? I can't even remember. And I want to say 2017. That kind of makes sense. Because I remember doing like a show, and this is when Jack Britton was in the band. It was like me, Jack, Ngaiirie, Cut Billy. And I was like, yeah, I had like one or two rehearsals before, and it was a lot of fucking work. Because I was a fan of Ngaiirie before then, like a big fan. Like Lamentations, I smashed that record. I rinsed it. I was like, fuck yeah. I'd seen Ngaiirie before, and like I knew that the the legacy of drummers that had gone through that band. It's like, Ross used to play, Ross Ferraro. It's like Evan Manel, Terapi, like Pies. I was like, oh man, okay. I was like, oh, cool, I'm actually doing it. I was just like, oh fuck, this heaps of work. And it's like it's intricate music too, because the parts are, again, because there's so much freedom, but there's like specific bits. I was like, oh fuck, and there's a lot to it. And I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah. And then from then on, I'm pretty sure it was 2017. I've been part of that project since. And it's been amazing. And yeah, me and Brucey have been doing stuff with Ngaiirie recently and kind of, workshopping stuff and writing a little bit, which has been heaps of fun. Because we've never done that with Ngaiirie before.
Yeah,
we just played tunes.
Because you're telling me you haven't played on the recordings.
Tunes that have just been, written and exist. So it's really fun, and I think that's it's also just fun to do that. Yeah.
So her previously recorded stuff. Mm-hmm. So who's playing drums on those?
So
is it the guys you would like, Evan?
Yeah. So on Lamentations, which is the 3 records ago. So there was Blastoma was the one after, and then 3. So yeah, 3 Blastoma, and then Lamentations was the one. 3 records ago. Is that what you say? Ross Ferraro was on that. I'm pretty sure. Maybe Evan as well. I can't remember. But and then everything else has just been programmed.
Okay.
So Blastoma, there was programmed drums. The Jack programmed Paul Mac. And 3, again, programmed drums. But, yeah, I think she wants to try and implement live instruments for this next little thing, whatever it may be. And I'm all about that. I think it'd be cool.
So when you're playing that stuff live, you program drums. Is it? Are you adding electronics to your drum kit?
Yeah,
and maybe loops and playing along to tracks.
Yeah, I'm probably more when I first started. I was definitely doing that heaps more, like
to get familiar with it.
And that was kind of the show and the way the show was built and everything. Everyone was kind of running out of an SPD, which was like heaps of. I was familiar with that because there were a bunch of projects and bands that I was working with that like you just fucking run the track out of the SPD and run loops and samples and stuff. And like it's handy to have an SPD. I fucking hate the things because I'm so bad at them, and it's just another thing for me to worry about. And it's just like I wish that I did it more, that I could implement it, because there's some players that can fucking play drums and SPD and make it kind of work, and I still haven't figured it out because it still feels like I'm just hitting a rubber band, and it's just like takes away from me actually playing the drums, which is like what I love to do. But now the show is like Brucey runs track, and I play a couple of like just one shot things like SPD patterns. But yeah, it's always just hard, I think, like monitoring wise, when you're kind of going from like this thing that's like to like bah, 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 bah. It just feels weird, and I haven't quite felt. It's not against anyone, it's just like my own personal shit,
You're also not getting that sort of the haptic feedback that you
totally,
get from a drum pounding in your chest.
And exactly. It's not,
and your stick sort of going, the stick with a little bit of give in the head. It's all of a sudden hitting a rubber pad and jarring your hand.
But they are fucking handy to have when someone's like, "Hey man, do you have an SPD?" It's like, "Yeah, sure I do."
I found a video today, it's Salt featuring Godtet when you're playing on, and it's just you're just playing SPD on that. You've got it looks like you've got a kick drum in front of you, but it sounds like it's triggered maybe, or you're playing a pad or something.
I can't even remember if I fucking used that. But that. See, that kind of, if I was just playing SPD and that kind of stuff, that's great.
Yeah.
I remember seeing James Blake at Splendor, and the drummer just had like, I think it was like an SPD and like just a bunch of cymbals, and I was like, that's a fucking good setup because it just makes sense, But when you see like all the big touring stadium, bands like with all the gospel guys, and they've got like fucking 2 SPDs and they're playing trap shit. I was like, oh man, it's just like they make that shit sound so good.
Yeah.
I was like, I just can't do that.
I mean that's their lane, right? You've got your lane, so we don't need to muddy the waters.
I just like to play drums.
That's it.
But yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have, and I really wish I was more tech savvy. I'm not that great at it.
Because wouldn't you think that would sort of add another element? Oh, I suppose with Dave and Yanni with their sort of Lego sets, they can pull that stuff off. You don't need to add to that. Sorry, what's the name of the piano player? Guitar?
Andrew Bruce.
I suppose you don't want to sort of muddy their waters. Just play your.
Well, I
drums.
think that's the thing too. It's just like, especially even now when I'm recording, like I don't want to hit a ride or a crash, that takes up so much space sonically.
Yep.
It's like when you listen to any of those Beatles records, like, it's Ringo, like, he doesn't hit the crash that much, but when he does, he like really made it. It's like a statement.
Yep.
Anything like that is like a thing, and it's like it's a big deal, but it's like it's a choice. It's not out of habit.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really like that, like when it's just like all about the drums, and it's just like, oh, cool, that's a statement. It's just like, it's cool. But yeah, I find it using like kind of more staccato kind of, I don't want to say earthy, but I guess earthy sounds or whatever. But when it's just the drums by itself, and then when you have someone like Dave who's got the fucking Starship Enterprise pedal board, and he can just make some kooky ass sounds, it's like, oh man, you don't need to add to that.
Yeah,
it's just like you just do, can do some textural stuff underneath that, but like add, underneath it. I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah, you've got your own style. You've got your own. Or what I'm getting to here is if you had like even a still shot, a silhouette of you, then nobody knew it was you. They'd look at that silhouette and they know it's you by the way your body is sitting. You've got like a bit of a slouch on you, and you play with your head sort of tilted. Yeah,
I don't know. I really don't know. I think I've been trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
I remember someone said that to me recently. And I think it was my mum.
Yeah.
Because my mum, she doesn't come to gigs very often, and she'd come to the last 2 gigs I've done at the Union. And she was like, oh, well, turn your head to the side. And I think that's a listening thing. I think that's for my ear.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I could be completely making this up.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's like to somehow listen harder.
Okay.
Maybe it's an insecurity. It could be fucking either one of those things. I just don't want anyone to look at me.
What I'm getting to there is, are you feeling any sort of impact on your body by doing that?
Actually, this is. You know what my dad brought me yesterday?
Oh, shit. The Anatomy of Drumming. No way.
He's like, I got this book by John Lamb, Anatomy of Drumming. Move better, feel better, play better. I don't know if he's trying to tell me something.
So maybe he's seen what I saw.
Yep. Yeah. Little John Roberts, Thomas Pridgeon, Jar, Chris Dave, Clayton Cameron. They all said good things about it. So when I'm on a plane next, I reckon I'm going to read that.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the first drummer that comes to mind there, Dave Elich. Like he's all about posture and ergonomics and all that sort of stuff. And there was a drum teacher that I went to once. I only had 2 lessons with him, but one thing that I really took away from him was sort of a symmetrical motion in playing, right? Yeah. And I'm a little bit like that. I mean, I've got a bad back because I sort of slouched a little bit, and but yeah, you've got your thing, and that's your thing. Yeah. But I mean, and being 32 years old, maybe you're not feeling it yet, but you're going to get to a stage.
Oh man,
once you hit your 40s,
I felt a lot of things. Yeah, but I think that thing is going to fucking kick me in the ass one day.
Yeah.
But it's funny too because like when I'd sit down at the kit, like say fucking earlier today, I was sitting down just fucking around or whatever. And I was like, I don't do that. I don't do that slouchy thing. I'm quite like...
You're up?
I'm up. But I think it's just a performance thing.
Performance thing? Okay.
Yeah, which is like still bad because I do play a lot in front of people, I guess. But it's like... Yeah, and I remember being like... Went through a phase of like trying to figure out where I want my stool to sit.
Yeah.
Whether I want to sit low or sit high. And it's like, everyone's got their own thing, Everyone's built differently. So I think I sit kind of at a good spot and kind of have my shit set high now too. So, because I like being surrounded by the drum kit. I don't like being on top of it, which is it's weird. I like the things being there.
Yeah.
Like fucking when Vinny Collier used to sit real low.
Yeah. Speaking of Vinny, I just saw this little short that came up on YouTube the other day. Like this is when he was playing with Sting.
Yeah.
And they sort of interviewed Vinny afterwards, interviewed Sting a little bit at the start, but then they talked about his tech. And they're asking about, how Vinny sort of sets his drums up. And Vinny likes his drums where he can just sort of throw an arm.
Yeah.
sort of out to the side, tuck his elbows in. And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's always a thing. You never want to. I can't remember who else was saying that, but you never want to overextend. You kind of want everything to be at arm's length.
Yeah, so you can sort of throw it out.
I mean, I remember, again, when I was, like, obsessed with Lucius, I used to set my kit up like him.
Yeah.
Everything, like, fucking, the angles.
Yep.
Cymbals,
That
high.
was me with Weckle.
Yeah, yeah.
I had the Weckle, I had the stack.
Yeah.
The ride high.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
The high ride.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then,
and the floor tom on the left, which I never ever used.
And then the funny thing is like when I went and had a lesson with Lush, he'd set up completely changed. Everything was super flat.
How'd you handle that? How'd you get through that?
Well, I was like, yeah, what? I asked him about it. I was like, yeah, what? Because I was like, man, I used to fucking set everything like you used to, like in the new normal days. He was like, man, I can't set my cymbals up above my ears anymore because of the frequency from underneath that you get. So he sets them below his ears. Right. I was like, oh, that's the thing.
That's
so
interesting.
My cymbals are getting lower and lower these days.
Yeah, yep.
Which is good. But yeah, I only really rock a hi-hat and a ride now. That's it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. You talked about you've been going overseas a bit. What's that for?
So this year I went to America with Ngaiirie for like 22 days. And that was like doing it was a government grant funded thing. I can't remember what it was called, but that was awesome. We went everywhere. We went like Billings, Montana, Lafayette, Louisiana, Iowa, Illinois, Frederick, Maryland, Baltimore, Woodstock, Georgia, Atlanta, and then home. And we were doing theatre shows and did a bunch of workshops, like one on a reservation in Crow Country in Billings, and did like 3 high school workshops in American high schools, which is cool. It's kind of like this.
Yeah, right, that's cool.
But you kind of play a tune and, you know, and the kids are like a bit sheepish at first, and it was like... But yeah, just doing a bunch of shows there, and then like Harvey Sutherland, who's another artist who's based in Melbourne that I play with a lot. Went to Albania with him for a festival, and Scandinavia, went to Copenhagen and Oslo, and went to LA with him, and then it's just been heaps of touring with that. Both Ngaiirie and Harvey just keep me so busy.
That's good, man. That's really good. And any trips planned?
Yeah. So there is this trip to Japan on the 10th of November with this Japanese guitarist named Cha, who I got called for this tour. It's like, I think it's about 8 or 9 shows, but I'm there for about a month and a bit. So, yeah, that's a cool thing. And I've never been to Japan before.
So do you know the guy? Do you know who you're going with? Wow,
I've met him on Zoom, and I've met his manager. He's super cool. He's really, really cool.
Excellent.
But he was like very big in the 70s, kind of around in the 70s, but is very, very big in Japan. And you know, there's videos of him and like Steve Lukather jamming, and it's cool. It's like kind of blues rock fusion guitarist guy. So yeah, Japan, that's the thing.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Have there been gigs that you've turned down that you've had to turn down that you kind of regret that you did because you're doing something else, or? Yeah. There's. Yeah. You don't have to name the artist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For this Japan trip, I had to turn down something, which is a bummer because it would have been fun because my friends are on it. I was like, oh, damn. But that's just the thing.
That's the way it is, eh?
Yeah, and it's like, this is like, I think with the international thing, it's been lucky. Like, I've gone to places. I don't think I'll ever go back to Albania.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't like it. It's just like, where the fuck will I go
Why would
there?
you go back there?
Yeah, why would I go back there?
Yeah.
But it's just like, I've never been in Japan, and like there's a bunch of time off between shows. I know a bunch of people that are going to be in Japan. It's going to be cool. My friend lives in Tokyo. So it's like, oh man, that's like an experience of a lifetime to do this. Like, and it's funny too, because I think I've been in and out of the country for like not long periods of time, apart from that Ngaiirie trip earlier in the year, but you lose the sense of routine, and when you come back, you're just like, fuck, what am I doing? And then you kind of go like, oh man, I'd just love to have my teaching job back and just hang around the area. And it's just like, oh, actually, no, it's like, it's cool. Because you get to see shit. Like, my favorite thing to do is when I go overseas is just like get to the hotel, drop my shit down, and just go for a walk. I just walk for like, I don't know, until I find a bar. And I sit there by myself.
Yep.
Have a beer, and then just like keep walking. And it's just like, even just like random shit, random boring shit. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm in another place,
Yeah. Do you get offered sort of more commercial artist type gigs that would probably be a good sort of payday, but was not really in your warehouse? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like commercial, like.
Or maybe the lack of a better word.
Yeah,
there, where I'm going.
There's probably there are definitely things that I've been offered where I'm like, oh, it'd be cool, and it would be like a lot of touring for maybe not much money, but it would be a good experience. It all comes down to experience, and every experience is, I don't know. I've had enough experience now to know if it's going to be a shit vibe or not.
Yeah, that's
so. If it's good people and it's a good hang, it's going to be a good experience. If it's like I'm a bit like cagey and they're a bit cagey, like, oh, I don't know,
it's not going to work.
Yeah, but there are certain things that I would love to do. Like, I'd love to be touring 6 months of the year with like a pop thing, or in a band.
You would, yeah.
Yeah, or in a band or something, and it's just
Yeah.
like you just play the same shit for 6 months. That'd be fucking awesome. Me and Yanni always talk about, like, we look at like the Tedeschi Trucks band schedule. It's just like, man, this fucking dudes tour for like 8 months of the year. It's just like, that would be so awesome to do one year of that and be like, okay, I've had enough.
Yeah.
But like the experience would be incredible, like, but I think at this point, I'm kind of keeping it tight knit in the family, like where it's just like, all the people that I play with now are my, dear friends.
Yep.
And they I have been for a while, worked with them for a long time. So it's like, and I can rely on them and they rely on me, and it's like, I don't have to like be like, oh, I got to go search for this thing. And if something comes up, like this char thing just ended up happening because, Steve Balby, who's a good friend of mine, I, work with him and record with him, and his best friend, Justin Stanley, was recording Char's new record and then hit me up. And, I haven't met Justin before. I almost met him in LA. But super lovely dude. So yeah, that's the thing.
I've played with Steve Belby.
Oh, really?
This is my Steve Belby story.
Yes.
Right? So we played it was like an agency manager. She was dying of lung cancer. So we put on like a fundraiser thing for her out at Campbelltown Catholic Club.
Catho.
The Catho, yeah. yeah. And so the band that I was in at the time, Endless Summer Beach Party, is like a covers thing, beachy sort of music, and so we played out there. And Steve Belby was a solo act, and he was on before us. And of course, we had all our gear set up, and anyway, so he's doing one song, and then he just like yells out, "I need someone to come up, just play bass drum." So I ran up there, jumped on my drum kit, just went for a song, and that was it. That was my Steve Belby jam. So
sick.
That was cool, man.
Steve's the best, man.
Yeah.
I love that guy. Yeah, he's been very lovely to me, and it's cool. I go out to his place every now and then. He's because I met Steve at JMC because he was working there, and every now and then he's got these little kind of singer-songwriters and bands that he works with, and he's recording stuff, and he needs drums, so I just go out to his place and track drums in his little studio, and he's on his little 60s Premiere kit.
Yeah, cool.
It's sick vibe.
That's
he's
awesome.
Great dude. Fucking beautiful guy.
Good stuff. So besides the tour coming up in November and the sort of local gigs you got going on, any recordings coming up?
No, not really. Like that's kind of that's it. Like I'll do a bunch of bits and pieces, but nothing really major before I go. That's kind of it, which I'm happy about. Like,
and that'll do your year out, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Come home for Christmas and
yeah. Well, I kind of want to. I definitely want to record something next year with Dave down at his place in Coaldale. But that's kind of been on the back foot for a while now.
Do you have your own? Just on that, do you have your own songs that you've written as a drummer, like a based around a group? No, nothing like that.
Nah. You know what's funny? The more I was circling back to Abe, like the more I think about that record, Confidence to Make Mistakes, I was like, oh fuck, you can do something. It's just like, I mean, I know Abe is like it can play everything and can sing as well. So I was like,
he's a pretty mean bass player too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it was just like, I was like, fuck, it'd be cool to do something like that. But I've had ideas of what I wanted to do, but I think the only way it's going to happen is if I don't think about it and just go in and do something and make something of it.
Yep.
And just see what sticks. I think that's the thing. But
very good. Yeah, I had Abe on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard it, but it was before. It was the Christmas before COVID when he came out here, and he was staying with his dad, Victor. And went out there and had a hang with him. He's awesome, man.
Best dude.
Yep.
Best dude. Yeah. Always. Yeah. No matter when it is you see him or where it is, he's just the loveliest guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Tully, man. This has been great, man. I've really enjoyed chatting and talking shit.
Thanks, Stevie. It's a legend. It's awesome.
It's good stuff, bro. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year, and I'll keep my eye on the socials when you've got something playing around, and I'll come out and
easy.
Sit down, have a beer.
Legend.
All right, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Take it easy, man. See ya.